Lesson 4, Part 2. The key elements in fiction stories. The story mountain. So when we read stories in fiction, we're kind of reading it as a story that's shaped like into a mountain. We're going to make these diagrams that look like a mountain. And sometimes we can actually call them a roller coaster because we're going to be going up and then coming down. And they have each part of this mountain has special names. The first one is the exposition, and that's the symbol, just the starting line right here. And that's basically the first part of the plot. It kind of sets up who the characters are, it gives the setting, and some kind of background information that you need to know in order to start understanding where the story is headed. Then comes the special incident, and that's the event that really helps make the story in motion, where it really makes the story possible. And then comes the rising action. And that's like that beginning, that clicking noise as you're going up that roller coaster. And those are the events that kind of help you understand what the problems are of the character. And it keeps making the plot move along nicely. And it's really just the main parts of the story. And it's reaching to the most exciting part where that character has to make a very big choice or a decision. They have to come in terms with their problem. And that is where we're actually at the top of the mountain, which is called the climax. And that is the most exciting part of the story. That is where they have to come in terms with they become the protagonists, and they are usually at the turning point of the story where they have to make that critical choice or that big decision. And then because they made that decision or they made that choice or they came in terms with their problem or they fought against it, there is now the falling action. And that's basically they're going down the exciting part of the story. Because they made that big choice, now all the other events are going to happen because of that exciting part. And that's basically where you're falling down that roller coaster, that hill. And that is going to be moving towards the resolution, how the character is basically going to solve their problem. And that's where we come to the end of the ride, or the end of the story, and that's the resolution. It's the end of the story. It's where all the events are kind of tied up and the conflicts are solved.
If you're going to Plot Mountain, you gotta start somewhere. We'll call this the introduction. And guess what happens there? You describe the characters and the settings. That's the who, what, when, and where. The characters are the people that are there. What do they look like? Why should we care? And the setting is the place where they be. What exactly do the characters see on their way to Plot Mountain? At the start of Plot Mountain, you're gonna have to go up. We call this the rising action, and here starts the plot. There's a conflict in the story. You should describe exactly what. Like a character has a problem to work through with themselves or the world. What should they do? Or maybe there's some big arguments or some dramatic natural events on the way up Plot Mountain. Keep going up Plot Mountain until you reach the top. We call this the climax, and here you cannot stop. You must face the biggest problem that leads to a turning point. Here the story is the most intense, with emotions, drama, and suspense. But action like this cannot stay. The story must change and go a different way on the top of Plot Mountain. After the top of Plot Mountain, you're gonna start to go down. We call this the falling action, and it lasts until flat ground. There's still action in the story, but it will start to slow down. So the worst is over, yeah, the worst is through, but now what will the characters do? There are still some problems, how long will they last? And don't forget the ending is coming fast on the way down Plot Mountain. After climbing down Plot Mountain, well, it's gotta end somewhere. We call this the resolution, and what will happen there? You should answer all the questions until you are aware that the conflicts in the story from before aren't there anymore. Unless there's gonna be a sequel or a part 2, and then you'll have to think, what will the characters do the next time on Plot Mountain?
So we know the elements of a plot diagram. Now what? Let's see if we can apply these basic principles to analyze the plot of Beauty and the Beast. The first section on a plot diagram is the introduction, which is the opening situation or conflict. Disney's Beauty and the Beast gives us the introductory conflict right away by describing a young boy who turns away a raggedy old woman and ends up getting cursed. We then receive more introductory information when we are introduced to Belle, a quirky girl in a French village. The next step on a plot diagram is the rising action. The development or rising action begins when Belle's father wanders into the Beast's castle and Belle must sacrifice her freedom to save his life.
You have my word.
Done!
A lot of the middle part of the movie is more rising action as Belle learns that Beast isn't really such a bad guy. All is good and well until the conflict begins to build as Gaston decides he wants to kill the Beast for taking Belle from him. The next step on our plot diagram is the climax or the height of the conflict. Gaston and his mob break into the castle and begin to fight the Beast and all of his friends. This is the story's climax or the height of its conflict. The next step on our plot diagram is the falling action as it heads toward the resolution. The falling action or de-escalation of events begins as soon as Gaston falls to his death, ending the major conflict or climax. The falling action continues toward the resolution as Beast transforms back into his human self. Finally, we have reached the movie's resolution, which is when all things fall into place. We see that all of Beast's friends have also transformed back into their human selves, ending the major conflict started in the beginning of the story, which was the curse. Belle's longing for adventure is fulfilled, and Beast has finally learned his lesson of true love. The movie ends on a sweet note with a wedding and is completely resolved. So there you have it, a plot diagram for Disney's The Beauty and the Beast.
assisting the elderly, and for performing above and beyond the call of duty, I would like to award you the highest honor I can bestow, the Ellie Badge.